Hello, my name is Manuela Mondo. I work in the cluster providing support in tenders and bidding operations which are undertaken by ITCI law technical programs. With my colleagues, we provide support from the identification and selection stage, that is, selecting the bidding operations matching ITCI law's mandate and capacity, throughout the preparation of the technical and financial proposals until contract signature. One of the most important and time-consuming phases in view of reaching the decision to bid or not to bid is the analysis of the bidding opportunities, and this analysis is based on eligibility, qualification and evaluation criteria. The analysis is then conducted in the framework of a wider risk assessment, keeping into consideration our own capacity. Our aim is not only winning proposals, but also submitting good quality proposals that are viable and sustainable by our organization. In this session, therefore, I would like to introduce the concept of eligibility criteria and the other criteria that may determine your decision to participate in the process and the success of your proposal, as well as the tools that we use. We may say that there are three main types of criteria. The eligibility criteria, strictly speaking, are those which determine the admission of your company, organization or consortium into the bidding or tendering process. The qualification or selection criteria are used to determine whether your organization or consortium has the technical, operational, administrative and financial capacity to carry out the assignment in case of award. The evaluation criteria rate the quality of your proposal, its relevance, quality, organization, work plan, cost effectiveness and sustainability. Of course, these definitions may change from donor to donor and according to the type of procedure, whether it is a call for proposal or a tender and so on. And therefore, it is important that you read them in view of the type of donor and procedure for which you are applying. First of all, the eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria in the strict sense define the basic requirements that you have to fulfill to be admitted to the process, and they may concern, for instance, the type of organization or legal entity, whether it is a public, NGO, international organization, private, and so on. In some cases, the nationality of the participating organizations, for instance, in EU tenders, sometimes EU nationality is requested. The minimum number of partners and their nationality. Again, in the case, for instance, of EU procedure, sometimes a minimum number of partners from different countries is requested, and the grant amount requested in some cases, and in particular when there are thresholds. Another requirement may be the need to be registered in a supplier's platform, for instance, Prospect or the UN vendor database. Another requirement may be the number of proposals to be submitted. In some cases, for instance, only one proposal can be submitted. In other cases, more than one proposal by the same company can be submitted. And then, last but not least, the overall packaging. You can see that the tenders always contain general admission requirements to be respected and which concern deadlines and submission conditions which are common to all donors with possible variations. For instance, physical delivery or electronic submission, hard copies or online submission or both, separating technical from financial information and separating technical from financial envelopes. This usually applies in the case, for instance, of Europaid or World Bank tenders, the language for the submission of the proposal, and this respecting the templates which are provided by the donors and the limitation in number of pages when this is specified. The second set of criteria are the qualification criteria, which may also be named selection criteria. These criteria concern the administrative, operational or management capacity to implement the project. For instance, legal and administrative criteria, having a sound legal situation according to the laws of the country where the bidder is based and vis-à-vis the donor. The operational capacity, having adequate staff resources and competencies for implementation, having the required number of years of experience or previously implemented projects in the same area. Financial criteria, of course, having a sound financial situation to ensure the financial capacity to handle the project. For instance, this is very important where there is no advance payments and funds need to be anticipated by the company or organization. The co-funding capacity, for instance, in the case of EU grants, when this is required, and how the co-funding has to be provided, in cash, in staff time, and so on. And then providing all the necessary documents that prove all the above points, which may be internal documents and external evidence in connection with the requirements set by the donors. Thirdly, we have the evaluation criteria or award criteria. These criteria are linked to the contents and the methodology. They refer therefore more to the proposed action that you are presenting to the proposal rather than to the bidder. Normally, every call or tender contains the list of evaluation criteria with the score attributed to each criteria. These criteria have to be checked, therefore, before starting the writing process. They may concern different parts or aspects of the proposal, for instance, the rationale, the methodology, the work plan, the team of experts, or different aspects, the relevance, the sustainability, the quality, the efficiency, and so on. In some cases, you will also notice that the donors' templates contain headlines that drive you, that guide you in respecting these criteria. In some other cases, donors' templates are not available. In the case of tenders, for instance, specific importance should be given to the score for the team of experts, the key experts in particular, and their availability. If this team is not identified and secured from the start according to the donor's requirements, the proposal submission is jeopardized and you may not be able to submit the proposal. Then the eligible activities. In case of EU calls for proposal for grant awards, for instance, very often there is a list of priorities and the proposal has to be aligned with one or more of them, depending on the instructions. This aspect will have an impact on the evaluation of the relevance of your proposal. In tenders, in particular, evaluation takes into consideration the cost factor because these tenders are made on competitive basis. The weight of the technical versus the financial proposal may be, for instance, may vary from 80 to 20% up to 50 to 50%. This means that if the weight is 50% for the technical and for the financial, you have to be very, very competitive from a financial point of view, even if your technical part is very good. As ITCIA law, we have put in place internal standard procedures and guidelines that help us in the bidding process. The bidding guidelines have been validated by our management to facilitate the clearance and the signature process, including a risk assessment tool. In connection with this, we have developed a specific approach and a number of tools that facilitate the work and the response capacity to respond to tenders, taking into consideration the time factor. These tools include, for instance, as mentioned, a risk assessment form, the fact of being registered already on some donors' platforms, of having our statutes ready and available in different languages, of having templates and of updated legal documents, of having updated financial figures on our turnover, cash flows up to 3 and sometimes even 5 years backward, having updated figures on internal staff resources, having a database with records and description of past projects, having a database of previous contracts, database of experts with CVs in different forms, and then being able to network easily with potential partners organizations, and subscribing to a number of alert systems that of course alert us when there are new tender opportunities. And then of course always checking the guidelines provided by each donor, for instance by the EC or by the World Bank. One additional recommendation that we have is the following. Before embarking into the bidding process, always check the draft contract. Sometimes the contract may contain clauses that you may not be able to respect once the contract is awarded. These are set in the specific and general conditions, and you have to make sure that they are acceptable to you. Once the tender has been submitted, these conditions cannot be modified, and in case of unacceptable clauses for your organization, for instance, audit, penalties, insurance, reporting requirements, and so on, the negotiation may fail. Then it is important to always check the eligibility and soundness of your partners. Ask them to provide you with capacity statements, financial data, available resources, and so on. Okay, then last but not least, always check the technical and financial feasibility of the project. Do you have the technical and financial resources to implement it? Is it financially viable for your organization? Is it worthwhile? Winning the competition, yes, but at what cost?